Hello, good morning. Welcome to J News Desk. We're coming to you live from our studios in Kokomlemle. Coming up this morning, Afenyo-Markin Teaching Hospital records 500% increase in stroke cases. We have details as the hospital scouts for a remedy to this situation.
Intervention. The clot, which is the problem, the one that is causing the symptom, is what you are dissolving.
Also this morning, as we celebrate International Women's Day today, there are concerns women are underrepresented in Parliament, prompting concerns of the need to invest and accelerate the progress of women. We'll hear from women who have defied all odds to make a difference.
Ghana is punching below its weight. At 14.5% representation in Parliament, with less than 28% of the MPs under 45, we really are at a critical stage where something has to give.
Last National Peace Council cautions political party leaders not to resort to violence during the December 7 elections.
Non-violence is a powerful weapon that must be well utilized in our country.
More as they charge politicians to help efforts in mitigating existing and emerging threats. My name is Aisha Ibrahim. Please do stay for details. Many thanks for choosing us. The Afenyo-Markin Teaching Hospital is admitting over 1,000 stroke patients every year. The figure is in contrast with some 200 cases recorded 40 years ago. A time-bound and minimally damaged treatment has been launched at the hospital to improve stroke treatment. Here's a report by Clinton Yeboah.
A decreased blood flow stroke occurs when the blood supply to parts of the brain is blocked or reduced by a blood clot. Stroke has been noted as a top rampant medical condition being recorded in the Afenyo-Markin Teaching Hospital. Treatment remains a challenge while experts explore contemporary treatment methods. The drugs and medication previously used in stroke treatment did not dissolve blood clots, hence leaving patients with a permanent disability. Active stroke thrombolysis will administer clot-busting drugs and medication to dissolve blood clots in the brain during an acute stroke. Thrombolysis services will incorporate thrombolysis into routine stroke care at Afenyo-Markin Teaching Hospital. At the launch of the implementation of thrombolysis services, consultant neurologist at the Afenyo-Markin Teaching Hospital, Dr. Fred Stephen Safo, said the new method is revolutionary.
In the past, when somebody had a stroke, what we used to do was you admit the person and start aspirin. But those drugs in the past does not dissolve the clots that has been formed. And so the person will have a permanent disability. But in this intervention, clot, which is the problem, the one that is causing the symptom, is what you are dissolving from the brain so that the person will be healed and the person will be cured, in essence. So it is revolutionary in that it is novel, it is innovative, and it can really improve outcomes for our patients.
Chief Executive of the Afenyo-Markin Teaching Hospital, Professor Ochiri Adei-Mensah, says the hospital's new strategy is to optimize the delivery of tertiary health care.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, regrettably, challenges such as limited access to healthcare services, especially in the rural areas, low public awareness about the risk factors, symptoms and prevention of the disease, as well as shortage of specialized healthcare professionals skilled in the management of stroke cases have undermined the prevention, diagnosis and treatment of the condition in the country. In line with the hospital's new strategy to optimize the delivery of tertiary healthcare through innovation and research, management has supported the CACA multidisciplinary stroke thrombolysis team to commence the delivery of the special service to save stroke patients brought in time to this hospital from suffering the worst possible impact of the disease.
Deputy Regional Director of Clinic Care, Ghana Health Service, Rita Larson Randolph, is enjoining stakeholders to heighten public education on stroke.
I will just say that we are happy this is happening. We are ready to support But immediate term, what we think that as a service we can do is with the awareness creation and educating people to suspect so that they report to you, the experts. And then we will call for the material, what exactly to say in educating the people, because you have the expertise. So we believe that for the immediate term, that is something that is a service in the region we can do to support this novel thing that has come up.
Reporting for Joy News, Clinton.
The United Nations Development Programme in Ghana says women are underrepresented in Ghana. Women account for less than 15% of members of parliament, prompting concerns that there's the need to prioritize women, and they must be who are being relegated. However, as the world marks International Women's Day today, a push is being made for more representation of women across the world. There's more in this report.
The United Nations estimates that more than 300 million women and girls could be living in extreme poverty by 2030 if steps are not taken to close the gender gap. In view of this, the United Nations is marking the International Women's Day with a message to the world to prioritize gender-responsive financing and increase public spending on essential services and social protection. As the United Nations lead development agency, the UNDP says Ghana should not be left out, as the agency says women are underrepresented across the country.
Ghana is punching below its weight. At 14.5% representation in parliament, with less than 28% of the MPs under 45, we really are at a critical stage where something has to give. So affirmative action has worked elsewhere. We've seen it work in countries such as Rwanda, and it is one of the tools that will push us towards a path. Because we have to look at what's happening with political parties. We also have to look at how do we engage with aspiring young women leaders? How do we create a supportive ecosystem where we address some of the barriers to their engagement?
Experts say closing gender gaps in employment alone could boost GDP per capita by 20%. MP for Clotte Colley, Dr. Zaneto Ajaman Rawlings, says a lot more ought to be done to address the concerns of women, including the need for Parliament to pass the affirmative action bill that could show up representation of women.
The affirmative action bill has to be implementable, which means that we have to ensure that it is able to do what it needs to do across sectors and across socioeconomic levels and across different scopes of life. Otherwise, we will find ourselves with a lovely law that looks nice on paper, but will not achieve the desired objective. And so it's not a bill that can be taken lightly. It will require a lot of broad stakeholder engagement. We're going to have to really look at it very critically, because what you also don't want to do is tie yourself up into some kind of a legal knot that makes it impossible to be flexible enough to allow yourself to adapt as circumstances change.
Even before authorities get to work, the UNDP says it is rolling out a number of initiatives that would promote inclusion and empower women in Ghana.
And we're not the only ones doing that. And so we believe strongly that there should be better coordination amongst all the different players, and working with the enterprise agency, working with the export agency, working with the National Coordination Office for AFTA, just to make sure that we have more young people accessing these opportunities from across the country. But for women in leadership, we're very much looking at the local governance.
And as we celebrate International Women's Day today, there is a reminder of the urgent need to invest in women to help accelerate progress. The day is observed annually to give focus to issues such as gender equality, reproductive rights, and violence and abuse against women. The theme for this year's celebration is Invest in Women, Accelerate Growth. I have been joined by one of Africa's leading experts in quality management and leadership and founding dean of the School of Graduate Studies at the University of Professional Studies, Professor Goski Alabi. Always refreshing to have you, Prof.
Very much, and thanks for inviting me to join the conversation today.
Well, so let's start the conversation by picking your thoughts on the retention of Professor Jane Nana Adjeman as running mate of the NDC's flag bearer. It must be heartwarming.
Absolutely, and a happy Women's Day to all of us. I believe that it couldn't have been a better way for Ghana to demonstrate its commitment to women's empowerment and affirmative action, and also progressiveness, than having our own Professor Jane Nana Adjeman retained as the running mate of the NDC party. We are very happy. We know her credentials and we know her capabilities and we know the difference she brings to the table. We have celebrated women in a very, very positive manner. We have demonstrated that indeed in Ghana, women are not just being left behind, and it's not a lip service. I believe that we need to pat ourselves on the shoulder because Ghana has indeed been very strong at the forefront when it comes to women's empowerment. Firstly, we have had several Chief Justices who are women. We've had the Georgina Woods, the Sophia Kufus, and we have now another woman Chief Justice. We've had a Speaker of Parliament who is a woman in the Fourth Republic, and now we have Professor Jane Nana Adjeman as the running mate and incoming Vice President of the Republic of Ghana come 2025. And so what I would say is that, yes, it is important that we have the legal framework and infrastructure firmly in place to support women's empowerment. But in addition to that, preparation is important. We need to ensure that younger women are psychologically prepared to take leadership roles. We also need to ensure that a lot of the barriers are broken, particularly when it comes to women's participation in politics, our representation in Parliament, and also our representation at the local government level. But one of the critical things is our perspective of women who venture into politics, the kind of name calling, the kind of insults, the kind of shaming, the way we portray women who go into politics ought to change. It has to be more supportive than the kind of attacks we rain on our sisters and mothers who try to venture into politics in Ghana. In addition to that, I think that a mentoring system that is very deliberate ought to be put in place. And lastly, I would like to touch on female reproductive health. That is very important because if we have to improve on the gross enrollment ratios of women in the tertiary education level, then we really need to tackle female reproductive health. Teenage pregnancy. We are not talking enough about teenage pregnancy lately. This is something that we really, really need to focus on and ensure that many more females are going through secondary school entering tertiary education and they are able to go through tertiary education and get graduated. We also need to ensure that employability is key for these women. And that is where we need to encourage not just, formal workspaces, but we need to really support entrepreneurial initiative and make sure that we are strengthening a lot more women in the informal sector in Ghana.
Of course, that conversation is something that we'll be delving much into, and I'm happy you talk about the representation in Parliament. Right now, it is not something that is encouraging. But let me start with you as one of the women blazing the trails out there, taking up leadership positions and delivering with excellence. How would you describe the progress made so far in terms of getting women up there?
I mean, I have already mentioned that we have had several women who are Chief Justices in the Fourth Republic. We have had a Speaker of Parliament. We have had several female Vice Chancellors. At the moment, we have a lot. In fact, myself, I am the first female founder of a private university, and I would say, and currently a consultant president or consultant vice chancellor of a private university that I have established.
Congratulations.
We have Professor Jenana Opoku Ajiman, who has just been retained as the running mate. There is nothing like making such a history where we're going to have the first female vice president of Ghana. I think these are examples of very clear achievements and progress that Ghana has made in the area of empowering women.
The theme for this year's celebration, though, investing in women to help accelerate progress. I mean, what kind of investment are we talking about? Earlier, you mentioned that there must be a deliberate system that supports women. What kind of investment can help us achieve this?
I believe that firstly, it should be investment in tertiary education, because I keep saying that when we focus too much on the primary and secondary education level, sometimes we only perpetuate semi-illiteracy. But when we want women to truly become active, confident and assertive in contributing towards the development of our economy at the highest level, then we need to invest in tertiary education to support women to go through. In addition to that, we need to support women in private business, women entrepreneurship. We need to really invest in that. And we need to invest in the STEM and the TVET system. Most importantly, we have had an economy in the fourth industrial revolution. Economies are moving digital. How well are we preparing our women to actively participate in the digital economy? And so it is important that we realize some of these areas where we can actually venture into to ensure that women are very well equipped with new thinking, with new skills to be able to participate effectively, but also in the field of entertainment and journalism. Women are doing so well. We only need to ensure that we are engaged not only in global citizenship orientations, but we're giving digital citizenship education to our women so that we know how to engage digitally on the social media platforms, what to believe, what not to believe, and the understanding of how censoring of digital information affects our daily lives. I think it is important that we start focusing on the area of digital citizenship education to empower our women.
That's very interesting there. And I want to go back to that conversation about women representation in parliament. A recent UN report pegs the progress on women's representation in national legislatures as globally as slow and mixed for year 2023, registering a growth of 0.4% over the preceding year. In Ghana, there are only 40 women out of the 275 parliamentarians with, 20 from each side. This certainly is not encouraging. And the argument has been that many women do not like putting themselves up for the job because they like to be in their comfort zones. Do you subscribe to this?
I believe that to a very large extent, to the extent that I've had some conversations with younger males, and I asked them, would you encourage your woman to go into politics? Many of them will say, not at all. Why? You want my family to be disgraced? So this kind of social kind of system that we have where women who venture into politics are viewed in a certain light would have to be reset. We need a paradigm shift. We need to start looking at women who go into positive as women who are bold and confident. We need to create the environment where women are truly free to enter into politics. And while they engage, I want to use this platform to call on women to support women. To be honest with you, it is only lip service a lot of the time. Women would say, we want women. But when women are put forward, oftentimes we don't find women supporting them genuinely. We need to ensure that we encourage women to support women genuinely. I want to mention an example of some work that I did in 2012, where I happened to engage with key women in society. Our Lady of Blessed Memory, Professor Ramadi, I spoke to Amataidu, and a host of women. And what they tell me is that when they are getting to the higher levels, the men gang up against them. Recently, I spoke to a forerunner professor, female professor in the University of Ghana, and she said to me, Prof, that is as true as it was then as it is now. And I said, wow, the men gang up against us. Why can't we also gang up against them? Because after all, we are equal numbers. But this is what she said. She said, at the higher levels, how many of us are there to gang up against them? So this is the reality. We need to empower those that are down there to make them understand the power of numbers, so that if some group of people are perceived to be ganging up against women, women can also gang up. But I keep saying that it is strategic for us as women to know how to mobilize and rally support, not only of women, but also of men at all levels. This is critical. This is essential. And I think the game of politics and leadership ought to be taught effectively to women so that we can understand the power of mobilization, the power of numbers, and the power of good relationships in ensuring that we're able to get ourselves out there. The key...
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Prof.
For me, the key is our ability to break that cultural barrier of name calling of women in politics.
It's a very critical point you make there. Women must support their fellow women in achieving this. But how about the men? Have they supported us enough?
Well, that is why I believe that we need to find our own way of strategically positioning ourselves to get the confidence and the buy-in of the men. One of the things that I think feminism gender activism and advocacy have not done effectively is the fact that we have drawn too much women, as though women can live in isolation. As women, we live in a world of gender, of male, of female. We know of two gender. So it is important for us to understand that we cannot do without them, just as they cannot do without us. And therefore, how do we strategically position ourselves to get their buy-in, to get their confidence, to support us as we move ahead, just as we have our women also supporting us?
Then how do we get them to actually understand that, hey, I mean, we move together. You need to support me whilst I support you. Because, I mean, you made mention of all this name calling and making the ground, you know, uncomfortable for women to actually penetrate, especially in politics.
Yes, I believe that when it comes to we being able to prove ourselves to the men, we need to ensure that we understand the balance of what we bring to the table. A lot of the time, we as women ourselves have been made to believe that our destinies are in the hands of men. I mean, early enough in life, you find some parents telling women, you need to do this so that you can find a good man. You need to do that so that you can do this, so that you can get a man who can take very good care of you. What about we also taking care of ourselves and taking care of the men? So it is a question about significance. It is a question about value. It is a question about what we bring to the table. When the men know our value, and they know what we bring to the table, and they know that we are not just dependents. We don't depend on them totally. They depend on us just as we depend on them, because we bring something to the table and they can respect us. Then I believe that that kind of notion will begin to shift. So it is so important that women will start thinking about their own significance and about the value they contribute. Once we are able to establish that, the respect and the recognition will come naturally to us.
Well, we hope that as we celebrate the day today, women will begin to, reflect on some of these things, as well as the men to know that we are partners in achieving this. Thank you so much, Professor Goske Alabi. She is one of the leading professors in... Prof, you want to make a point?
Women's Day. Thank you.
Of course. Happy International Women's Day to you, Professor Goske Alabi. She is one of Africa's leading experts in quality management and leadership, and also founding dean of the School of Graduate Studies at the University of Professional Studies. She's also a founder of the university. She said that you heard her. Thank you so much for passing through. We're still live on Joy News Desk, and definitely we're taking you to the Ejisu constituency. Yesterday there was an unpleasant news that Parliament had to deal with. In fact, the whole country had to deal with. There's still some family and friends actually paying some respect to the late John Kumah. Nana Boakye Adom is pitching camp in his home at Ejisu, and he'll be joining us shortly. Nana Boakye Adom, what can you report from there?
Or the key indicators that they use to...
Residents, as constituency residents, continue to come into his private residence to mourn with the family. People are still coming in. In your shot are party executives, the party administrator for the Ejisu constituency, who is also mourning with the mother of the member of parliament John Kumah. That is the mother of the Member of Parliament and also his father seated there. And in your shot are some bereaved family members alongside the party administrator. Also, we have the Municipal Chief Executive Officer for the Ejuso constituency. He's here. He's also in to mourn with with the family members. The Ejuso Queen Mother is also here, Nanaya Santua, alongside the Bonre Queen Mother. Bonre and also falls under the Ejuso constituency, and so Bonre Queen Mother and then the Ejuso Queen Mother are also here to mourn with the family. The party chairman for the Ejuso constituency is also in here. In no time, we would be having the National General Secretary of the New Patriotic Party, Justin Frimpong, alongside some party executives who will be coming here to mourn with the family. They would be speaking with the family and also make plans ahead of his funeral. But currently, I have with me one person who was so close to the late Member of Parliament to also share some words with us. You know John Kumah so well. His donation to Ejuso Senior High School just Sunday, and upon hearing the news today, how does that feel?
Yeah, serious. We've been very hurt. John has been a good brother, a friend, and someone words cannot describe how the man is. Look at how people is crying. Look at the thing just happened just yesterday. The Queen Mother is here, chiefs, a lot of people is around. Why? It shows and it tells you the character and how the man lived in the municipality. He has done so well. That is why you see a lot of people coming in. We are in big pain. We don't know how to describe it. But what we say, we always say that there is only the God who gives and he alone takes. So that the consolation we have. But we can never miss and we can never forget this man. How he has contributed. Initially, I told you how he has helped a lot of the youth in this party to secure job. You know how difficult for the youth to get job recently. This man, barely 3 years, over 500 youths. This man have able to assisted them to get into various jobs. So we don't know how to describe the way he is, but what can we say? That's why we are all here mourning with the family. The MC is here, the Queen Mother is here. Everybody who matter in the constituency is here in this morning. The 10 haters, and we are saddened.
Well, he is saddened by the demise of the late Member of Parliament for the Ejuso constituency. Well, he says that not long ago he was with him.
A lot of tributes pouring in there for the late Ejuso MP and Deputy Finance Minister John Kumah. We'll take you back there for more. Right now, let's go to Parliament because Fatima Abubakar, who is the Information Minister designate, is being vetted.
Members of society, including politicians, and subject it to a test and verify whether the information they put out is correct or not. Also, on our part as a ministry, it is important that we don't leave a vacuum or we don't waste time when it comes to responding should any matter become of public interest, because people are in haste to know what is going on. And where we fail to respond, it will create a vacuum, leaving a lot of space for people who do not have the best intentions to cook up some stories and put there. So, Honorable Chair, I am minded that should any matter become of public interest and it is required that the government should respond, I am minded to make sure that the response comes in good time. Thank you.
Chairman, do I have the permission to ask a follow-up on this? Okay. Honorable Minister Designate, I want a clear-cut plan from you as Minister Designate, because you made reference to Dubawa. Those are private sector players. As a Ministry of Information, like I said, you have active government and party operatives on both sides of the divide pushing this agenda. Specific intervention from your ministry, not relying on private sector fact checkers. You as government, what steps are you going to take as the lead information agency to deal with this menace?
Honorable Chair, please, already the Ministry of Information under the Information Services Department has set up a platform called Ghana Today. The intention is for it to be the original source of government verified information, such that if there is any information out there, because anyone can pick a letterhead and then change the writings on it and put some material on it, and it will mimic the reality. But if you go on the Ghana Today platform, which to some extent is also acting like a fact-checking platform, you are able to assess the most verified information coming from our ministry and government agencies which have been made available to us.
Honorable Minister, Ghana Today platform, fact check. You're behaving like people living in Accra, as if all the communication is around Accra. Those operating various radio stations, they pick unverified publications, uncertified statements, and publish them. When it is about government, you will always come back. But when it is about an individual who probably doesn't have the platform to respond, the damage to the individual reputation is so huge often. Now, how do we propose that beyond the digital platforms, we can reach the communities outside Accra, Kumasi, Takrade, Tema, come to Bekwai, and go to Garu, make sure that the true information is what is shared to them, because they heavily rely on radio for information.
Honorable Chair, I totally agree with you. This has been a very big problem. And we are also constrained by the provisions under Article 1624 of the Constitution, which prevents government from interfering in the editorial independence of even state-owned media. So sometimes there is a thin line between giving advice to a media house, engaging them to ask them to do the right thing, and them feeling that you are interfering in their editorial independence. That being said, a lot of sensitization ought to be done. And I join hands with all the other CSOs and NGOs within our sector who are minded to take up this responsibility. Honorable Chair, when it comes to the content of the various radio stations, TV stations, media platforms, the supervisory role when it comes to content is solely under the National Media Commission. They have the powers to give the guidelines and also to give redress to people who submit complaints on publications that are not fit for purpose. But as it stands now, I pray that the National Media Commission will get the necessary support from the general public so that they can execute that mandate.
Well, you referred to Article 162, 163, 164. And I'm particularly interested in Article 164, and I want to share it so we share ideas on what it refers to. The provisions of Article 162 and 163, that is where guarantees and things are assured in the Constitution, says the provisions of Article 162 and 163 of this Constitution are subject to laws that are reasonably required in the interest of national security, public order, public morality, and for the purpose of protecting reputations, rights, and freedoms of other persons. So the editorial policy, all those things are subject to protecting my reputation, protecting public morality. We appear to have accepted that we can't interfere. And so they pick this meeting here and put a headline that denigrates everything we're doing here. And we say it is the editorial policy. Don't you think we should rethink the way we view the so-called media freedom?
Honorable Chair, point well noted, and I believe there is so much more we can do in advocacy and also seeing to the rapid passage of the broadcasting bill when it is brought before the House. There are a lot of vacuum when it comes to the regulatory powers of the NMC vis-a-vis that of the spectrum regulators, which is NCA. We are hoping that, God willing, the passage of the broadcasting bill would be able to seal some of the vacuum that we have in the space, so that in terms of content regulation and how to seek redress, we'll have a clear direction as to how we are going about it. And the NMC will also be clothed with the powers to deal with the people causing such infractions appropriately.
Yes, somebody will continue.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I'd like to ask the Honourable Minister nominee, in an earlier response to the Honourable ABF Hussaini, you indicated correctly that the GBC is not under the direct management of the ministry. You only provide policy direction and supervision. However, in providing that policy direction and supervision, and I know we are live on GBC, how are you going to, as minister, address the issue of legacy debts sitting on the books of GBC? And how are you looking to remodel the GBC through policy to ensure that it is able to reflect the likes of Deutsche Welle, DW of Germany, which is a public service broadcaster, or BBC, the British Broadcasting Corporation? What steps do you intend to, policy directions do you intend to introduce to deal with the mounting debts at GBC and transform it in such a competitive landscape? Thank you.
Honorable Chair, thank you so much. With regards to the legacy debts at GBC, the briefing that I received from the management is to the effect that we have 3 categories of debts. One has to do with bills. As you are aware, we brought before the Communications Committee at the time that GBC was owing ECD to the tune of about 27 million Ghana cedis. As we speak today, the government has been able to absorb about 17 million and has asked GBC management to try to raise the rest. The GBC management have also assured us that they are not going to accrue additional debts, so that over the period they will be able to pay the rest. There is another set of debts which has to do with judgment debts. I have been given the assurances by management that for some of the judgment debts they have paid quite some huge sums of the awards given. In some instances they have put a challenge at the court to challenge the award, and because those matters are still in the court, they are waiting for judgments. There is another category of legacy debts which has to do with the long service awards of retired staff. As we speak today, Honorable Chair, I'm happy to report that the GBC management have informed me that they've been able to meet a payment arrangement together with my predecessor, and by the end of the 2nd quarter of 2024, which is end of June, they would have been able to sort all the legacy debts with regards to long service awards, and they are going to publish the payment schedule by April 2024. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister, and I hope that if the House approves you, you will work closely with the Select Committee on Communications to monitor especially the payment of long service awards to staff of GBC, because if they've spent all their years serving the country, whatever is due them is only right that GBC makes those payments. My last question, Chairman, is to seek the opinion of the Minister nominee, given the challenges for the Ministry of Information. I mean, as the Honourable ABF Hussaini pointed out, when you and your boss, your immediate past boss, your predecessor appeared before the committee, it was heartbreaking to hear that in 2023 you received only 800,000 Ghana cedis for operational activity. Given the lack of funding for the ministry, there is a school of thought that says we should scrap the ministry and hand over the, for want of a better phrase, propaganda function or the communication function of the ministry to the Presidential Communications Directorate. Since there's a presidential spokesperson, let them speak on every aspect of government so that the Office of Government Machinery, which has more resources, would then be able to finance government communications properly. What is your candid opinion relative to this position?
Honorable Chair, as we live in an information age, it will be an incurable harm should the Ministry of Information be scrapped. If anything, I am of the belief that we should advocate for more allocation and to let people know the importance of the ministry. Honorable Chair, when the ministry was made at a point in time with the Communications Ministry, if you had been to the Ministry of Information building or the ISD building as we have today, the evidence of the struggles of the various agencies under the ministry was not something that you could even have words to explain. It pays that we have a sector ministry that is minded, that despite the fact that the key entities under the ministry are not income generating, they play a public duty. We need to pay attention to them. It has helped improve the fortunes of the agencies under the ministry. Also, Honorable Chair, I am happy to inform you that the GBC that we knew of yesterday is not what we have today. The GBC is growing, although steadily. The GBC that we had used to have only one channel. As I speak to you today, Honorable Chair, apart from the GTV that you know, we have the GBC News, we have the GTV Sports, we have the Gene Learning channel, we have the Lifestyle channel, and Obonu, and I won't be surprised if the management adds other platforms to the GBC brand. And it is very good because in difficult times they have really come through for us in terms of sports or digital education, online education, among others. So please, Honorable Chair, let us keep the Ministry of Information and advocate for more investment and more support for the ministry and its agencies so that they can thrive.
Chairman, just one last follow-up. Since the minister in a previous answer spoke about fact-checking, I just want to fact-check the minister right here and let you know that GBC's additional stations did not just happen. It happened under the Honorable Mahama Yariga when GBC's stations moved from 1 to 6. And so it's yes, there's improvement in GBC, but just to fact check you on that one, it didn't just happen. In fact, I think that.
So what is the fact which is checked?
The fact that it's being checked.
You only confirm what she said.
No, she said it is the GBC that we used to do is now growing, and I'm saying that the growth started a long time.
Well,
in fact, Honorable Ejare was at the opening.
It is a fact that it is not as it was when I was a schoolboy. When we used to go on a tour there, the situation has changed. That's a fact. Very well. Yes, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Council, I see that your religion is Islam, which permits that a man should have more than one wife. Yes, and you are a lawyer. You are able to handle that situation?
Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair, I am happy to say that I contracted marriage under 2 key regimes. Customary law, because if you want to marry a Kusase girl from Garu, you can't say because of Islam you are not paying the cattle. So I was married under customary law and also did the nikah, which is Islamic marriage. But under our Ghanaian, our current dispensation, If you do just the nikah, it requires registration. And if you don't register, it is not recognized under the Mohammedan law, as we have on our law books now. That being said, Honorable Chair, I was clear in my mind at the time of contracting the marriage that both instances are potentially polygamous marriages. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Grateful. But would you be kind enough to share this very beautiful custom and a religious practice among young women? It looks like the information now focus on the foreign one, wedding, one man, one wife, that contract. There's very little information on customary law marriages and.
So that's the Information Minister for you, designate Fatima Abubakar, who's being vetted there. Yeah, she's been talking about how to make her information available to the public to avert speculation. Definitely, there's more from the vetting we'll be bringing to you. Let's take a break on Joy News Desk. We'll be back in a jiffy. And that's how we wrap up News Desk this morning. My name is Aisha Ibrahim. Log on to myjoyonline.com. There's more of the news and updates of all the developing stories over there. You will read, I'm committed to partner Mahama, ready to serve Ghana with integrity. Nana Opoku-Agyeman. There's more you'll get there when you log on to myjoyonline.com. See you again at 12.